Hey there. I had intended to answer this lucid dreaming post whenever you first made it, but some things had distracted me and I kind of lost my response in the shuffle. So I'm going to remake it. Lucid dreaming used to be a very big interest of mine. I'm not all that into it anymore, although I could still do it, but I don't know, it just sort of got old after a while. But I did learn a few good techniques which may be of use to you or other people who are trying to lucid dream but finding themselves having difficulty doing so. Okay, the basic technique for increasing lucid dreams is the simple state test. The technique is very simple. You just train yourself to stop at various points during your daily grind and see if you're dreaming or awake. Just do whatever you need to do. Some people try turning on and off lights, because a lot of times light switches in dreams don't work the way they do in the waking world for most of us, or in most dreams. Electronic devices don't work the same way in the dream world as they do in the waking world. And things in general just don't work the same. So whenever it occurs to you to do a state test, just do whatever you have to do. You can try to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which in a dream of course will mean you're hovering off the ground, but if you do it here in the waking world, it means, if you really do it, it means you'll be falling on your kneecaps. But you won't be likely to let it go that far. But yeah, that's the basic technique. Do a state test, question yourself as sporadically and randomly as possible. And for most people that's enough to get them started. Okay, so suppose you do your state tests and voila, you're having lucid dreams. That's great. You don't really need to go any further. But for most people, it'll work well at first, and then eventually the mind will stop. And it goes back to, why is the mind so tricky? Well, the mind is trying to taper off your lucid dreaming. The mind does not want you to lucid dream. A mind brought up in the Western culture will resist lucid dreaming. Probably any mind will resist lucid dreaming to an extent. Eventually, even if you have success with the state testing, you're probably going to need something a little stronger. For myself, what I came up with, basically you make up a list of items or events or objects, or the list can be made up of items, objects, thoughts, actions, whatever fits you, and as many of them as you like. It can be as short or as long as you like. The goal is to compose a list of items that you will encounter at random. You won't have any regular time when you encounter these items. You'll just randomly see this item or experience the experience, and the goal is to have a list where you will have that happen at least once per day. Where at least once a day you will encounter some object or event from your list. Just one item or object per day is all you really need, although you can go as far as you like. One is a good starting point, though. So, for instance, one of my favorite things to use is an egg roll. Now, maybe you eat Chinese food every day and you always have an egg roll with it. In that case, you don't want to use an egg roll because it's a part of your predictable, mundane reality. What you're shooting for on your list are items that are not part of your predictable, mundane reality. They may be part of your mundane reality, but they're unpredictable. So with the egg roll, for example, maybe you don't have Chinese all that often, just once in a while, but even when you don't, sometimes you walk past a Chinese restaurant and you see people eating. So then that's okay. The egg roll would work good for you. But if it's something you have every day and you know when you're going to have it, it wouldn't work. Going with the egg roll example, the trick is to keep yourself... You don't want to be thinking all day to yourself, I'm looking for lucid dreaming cues. You want to let the subject of lucid dreaming go as far from your mind as you possibly can during the day, but once you encounter an item from your list, you want your mind to be trained to bring the subject to the forefront. And so you want to be training yourself to do state tests when you have your random encounter with one of the items or events from your list. You don't want to be keeping an eye open for it. You don't want to be thinking about it out of the corner of your mind, so to speak. But you want your mind to be responsive. Whenever you see something that is on your list, you want your mind to recognize it and instantly bring you to the point where you're questioning, okay, am I dreaming now? The reason that an egg roll is among my favorite items is because there are different ways of encountering an egg roll in the world. And the mind gets very, very tricky. When the mind doesn't want you to lucid dream, it will throw every trick in the book it can at you. So the egg roll provides an easy example that I can go with here. If you have an egg roll on your list, just as an example, you need to train yourself you need to train your mind to recognize all variations of the term egg roll. So say you get up in the morning and you decide to make yourself some scrambled eggs. As you get the eggs out of the container, one of them rolls across the counter. That is an egg roll. The mind works in symbology like that. If you have the phrase egg roll on your list, the mind, in trying to trick you into not recognizing it, might throw that kind of imagery at you. So it will be obeying your desire to notice egg rolls, but in a tricky way. So you got to learn to recognize the items on your list in different forms, or think of the different kinds of ways that the mind might try to throw it at you without letting it be obvious. And once you get yourself to a point where you're not thinking about lucid dreaming, but whenever you see an item from your list, you're doing a state test, that's whenever it will start working most effectively for you. Now the notion, a lot of people, whenever they try to lucid dream, they'll do an affirmation before they go to sleep. As they're laying there, they'll think to themselves, I will be aware in my dreams. I will have a lucid dream. And for some people that works. If that works for you, that's another fine and dandy thing, and you have nothing that you need to do. But for most people, might work a little while and then it'll stop, just like with most other techniques. So that is trying to induce a lucid dream head-on, and that is what the mind resists. What you got to do is be tricky. You got to be as tricky as your mind, and that's a hard thing to do. You have your list, okay, of items that will induce a state test in you. As you're going to sleep, don't think about lucid dreams. Don't think about being aware in your dreams. Think about the items on your list and just affirm to yourself that you want to encounter those items. You don't want to affirm to yourself that you're going to encounter those items and do a state test. All you want to do is ask your mind to let you dream about those items more often than you might otherwise do. The automated state test response will kick in once you're in the dream. And that is a way of slipping certain cues past your mind. It's kind of a way of tricking your mind into giving you what you want to do the state test. You don't think to yourself as you're going to sleep, I will become aware, or I will do a state test. No. You look at the items on your list and think, okay, tonight I want to dream about rolling eggs, or whatever it is that's on your list. You don't associate it with being lucid, because the brain will try to thwart you if you make it too obvious. You're trying to be sneaky with your brain. So if you can just induce more of the items from your list to appear in your dreams, you will succeed. It may take some time, but you will succeed. And that's essentially it. If you have any questions or need anything clarified, feel free to ask. This is one of my favorite topics. Thank you and goodbye.